castle, the absent-minded professor is making his infamous flubber. But before he blows us all up, let's go down into the dungeons. Let's go beneath the castle. Hi, I'm Michael.
I'm Rob.
And I'm Damien.
And this podcast is all about Disney. Each week we look at a different decade and choose a movie from that decade. This week we are looking at a movie from the 1960s. We are looking at a little movie called The Absent-Minded Professor. Damien, what is the plot synopsis?
A bumbling professor accidentally invents flying rubber that he names flubber.
Makes sense.
Yes. An incredible material that gains energy every time it strikes a hard surface. So think bouncy ball supercharged. It allows for the invention of shoes that can allow jumps on amazing heights and enables a modified Model T to fly. Unfortunately, no one is interested in this material except for Alonzo Hawk, a corrupt businessman who wants to steal the material for himself.
Well, that sounds like a great movie. It sounds like a movie that I may have watched in the 90s.
It sounds very similar.
It sounds
very familiar.
Flubber. Something about bouncing rubber.
So, Rob, what is your history with The Absent-Minded Professor?
My history is, I knew that the flubber that I watched as a kid was a remake of an old movie.
Did you know that?
I knew that it was a remake, but I didn't know what movie it was remade from. So I've never seen The Absent-Minded Professor until we drew it last week. Never really knew much about it.
And what about you, Damien?
I actually didn't even know it was a remake. It's a remake of a movie that also had a sequel. So it's the fact that I never knew it before now is weird and kind of sad because I kind of would have liked to know about this movie before.
Yeah, I'm in the same camp as you, Damien. I didn't know this movie existed, and like obviously I knew of Flubber, but I didn't know it was a remake. And then last week when we saw Son of Flubber, we thought we were surprised by that movie. But that was actually the sequel to this movie. And we didn't even realize we had stumbled upon a Flubber movie until we read the plot synopsis. Well, that was our history with Absent-Minded Professor, but now it's time for a history lesson with Rob.
Thank you for that, Michael.
So
The Absent-Minded Professor, it was released on March 16 in 1961. The film was such a huge success at the box office that it became the first Disney film to have a sequel, which is what we spoke about earlier, Son of Flubber. And it was also one of the first Disney films to be colorized for the 1986 video release. And along with the Shaggy Dog and the Son of Flubber, it is one of Disney's few black and white films to be produced after 1941. And a fun fact about it being black and white. So the Absent-Minded Professor, it was actually the reason why it was released in black and white is it was released in black and white as an effort to keep costs down, as well as to hide the special effects that they put in to the movie, just like in the Shaggy Dog. That's the reason why it was released in black and white in 1961. But a fun fact about the idea of this movie. So there was a professor of chemistry at Princeton University earned the nickname Dr. Boom from the Russian observers of his demonstrations at the International Science Pavilion at the Brussels World's Fair in the 1950s, which Walt Disney was in attendance. So Walt told the professor that he had given him an idea for a movie and invited him to California to give him a demonstration. For the actor who was playing the absent-minded professor, Fred McMurray, and he also mimicked this professor's mannerisms for the film. And then McMurray Fred McMurray also stated that he had never understood chemistry until he met said Professor Alvia.
Hmm.
And several rubbery compounds are named flubber as well in honor of the absent-minded professor.
Really?
So there are actual rubbery chemicals in the real world, like in our world, that are called flubber because of this movie. I thought that was pretty interesting.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And that's it for the history.
But do they have the same properties as flubber from the movie?
I hope so.
So was it what the material was able to store kinetic energy, I guess, and kind of keep itself going longer than it should, I guess?
But can we bounce as high as people did in Absent-Minded Professor?
Can we bounce
If you
as high
believe hard enough, Rob.
If you believe you can do it.
Yeah.
Also, while not strictly related to the Absent-Minded Professor, the sequel was also the only sequel that Walt ever did.
All right, well, shall we get into this movie?
Yes, please.
Once upon a time, there was a movie called The Absent-Minded Professor. And so we start off the movie, and as you said, this movie is in black and white, which was a bit of a shock to us when we started it, because we already had been watching movies from the 30s, 40s, and the 50s, and they were all in, Technicolor, and they looked amazing. And then we get to the 60s, and then this movie starts off in black and white. But obviously, as you said, it's because of, I guess, to hide the special effects or make them more realistic. Do you think, like, this is a bit of a hidden gem, this movie? Do you think because it's in black and white, it doesn't get the recognition that it should these days?
I think that might be the reason, because people like black and white movie. That movie must be from like the 1920s or something. I'm not watching that.
Yeah.
And honestly, if I knew about if I wasn't forced to watch the movie and I came across it and I saw that it was black and white, I'll be like, I'm not watching this. It's too old.
Yeah. It makes it seem like it's older than what it is.
Hmm.
So we start off with the professor in the classroom, and he's the one playing a trumpet, and he's smashing glasses everywhere, and then he smashes the kids' glasses.
That got the first laugh out of us, and we were like, what, 2 minutes into the movie, not even?
Yeah. And then he kills everyone else with black smoke, and then he blows everyone up. This is before the credits.
I don't even know what the movie's actually about at this point.
He murdered all his students. No, obviously he didn't murder them. But it was a good start to the movie. We're already chuckling.
Oh yeah.
So, then we got the credits. Then everyone's getting ready for the wedding, and the professor is working in his garage, and then his old lady was that his what was she to him? Housekeeper. Yeah.
Housekeeper. That's the word. I was trying to think of another word to say besides maid.
Yeah, but I don't think she was a maid, because maids usually just like smaller stuff.
Yeah.
I think that woman is the reason that professor still manages to stay alive, like eating and drinking.
Yeah, she keeps him alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this guy couldn't even get to his wedding, and apparently this was the third time that he was meant to get married to this Betsy.
Beautiful Betsy.
Good old Betsy.
Good old Betsy. And I mean, I think it was that old lady, that the housekeeper's mistake. She left without him. She should have dragged him into that car.
She should have known better at this point, right? Like, she should have known when he said, "Oh yeah, I'll be there." That's not gonna happen.
It's not gonna happen. No. So I'm blaming her.
Should have like chained him to the car or something and driven him there, dragged him there if she had to.
Exactly. So she left for the wedding, and then he said, "Oh, he's going to be there," but then he's still inventing stuff with his sidekick, Charlie the dog. I like Charlie. It was quite a good dog.
It was a well-behaved dog.
Not
was
a flying robot, though.
No.
In
Thank
fact,
goodness.
there was no flying robot.
And I'm very thankful there isn't a flying robot in this. Um, so the professor blows up his garage now. So we've had two big explosions in the first 10 minutes of this movie. He misses the wedding because he sort of knocks himself out, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he blows up his laboratory.
Yeah.
Guess he's got a knack for blowing stuff up.
And so, like, he doesn't make it to the wedding. And then there's this other guy, Shelby, who's
Shelby.
dodgy Shelby's cracking onto the professor's girlfriend.
Fiance.
Fiance. and now ex-girlfriend, because I guess she breaks up with the professor. Because 3 strikes and you're out.
Yeah.
That's how I operate.
That's how the game works.
But back to the garage, the professor wakes up and he's invented something. He's invented flying rubber. Flubber.
Also known as. What's it also known as?
Oh, look, Damien's got his own flubber. I mean, he's holding just for people who don't know, who are listening to this, he's holding a bouncy ball.
Watch the vids to see the other stuff you don't get to hear.
So we're like 10 minutes in this movie and we've invented flubber, which is great. We get to the flubber pretty quickly. And then he starts throwing the flubber around. And flubber, it generates its own energy. So that's basically what flubber is. It will generate its own energy, so it can just keep bouncing on forever, I guess, which is insane. And so this was good. A lot of good dog acting in this scene, because that dog is looking everywhere where that flubber's going. Give him a doggy treat for his efforts that day.
He should have been nominated for an Oscar for that performance in that scene.
There should be Academy Awards for pets, for animals in movies.
They really should.
And then after this is in the morning, because he wakes up in the morning, and then he realizes he's missed the wedding, and
he doesn't actually realize it's morning until the housekeeper comes back.
Yeah, he's
him like. He's like, no, I've got time. I got 5 minutes. I got time. I've got time. She's like, it's like 8 in the morning.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no.
I mean, this guy is very absent-minded, isn't he?
He makes me look good.
So he's gone off to go see Betsy, who works at the college with him, and then he's come in holding his flubber. And
Flubber.
Flubber is a very funny word. And so he's holding his flubber in his hands. And
we can say that we use the term flubber to mean like excess body stuff as well. It doesn't.
I don't know what it means. It doesn't sound right. Whatever. And he's standing by the door with his flubber, and then she's like telling him to go away, and he's standing there and he's like, flubber. Flubber. Flubber.
It's flubber.
He literally, he repeats the word flubber 10 times. I counted it. He's standing there repeating flubber like it means anything. He looks insane. So then we meet Mr. Hawk and his son, and his son's what he's wearing cracked me up. He's wearing like a bow tie, and he looks like an Archie comic, basically.
Oh my god, he does too.
like what do you think of a 19, I don't know, 60s or 50s boy? This is what he's dressed as, like a cartoon character. And so Mr. Hawk, he wants to shut down the school. What does he want to do? Like, does he want the land for something? I can't remember.
No, he's annoyed because the professor failed his son.
Yeah, okay. But doesn't he want to shut down the school?
That's why he wants to shut the school down, because then the professor talked back about the kid not earning his grades. Why would he pass him if he didn't earn the grades? And they have morals at that school and values. Well, the actual guy I think runs the school was like, shut up! He funds pretty much the whole school. But yeah, so he's like, I'm just going to take my money elsewhere.
Okay. So if he
the
doesn't...
classic rich kids kind of thing.
Yes.
But at least this time the professor stood up for his morals, I guess.
Yeah, I guess that's the right thing to do. Even though school's going to get shut down. and people are going to lose jobs.
Yeah.
But
I think that's a bit drastic for a father to do that because the teacher failed his son.
You're obviously not a rich parent.
Obviously.
Remember, there's nothing money doesn't solve, fix, or make you feel better about.
So we go back to the garage, and the professor he's got this idea to put the flubber into his car, which is a Model T. Which is what, Model T Ford?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's also an old car at that point of that movie.
It was, yeah, even in that movie, it was older than all the other cars in that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to, because we're watching it now, it's hard to know exactly that car wasn't meant to be, it's already 10 years old. Or I don't know how old it was.
Like cars
I
now,
think
we can look at them and go, this is a 90s car, just because of how it's designed.
Yeah.
I think this calls for a Damien look it up session.
I think look it up.
Damien, look it up.
How
old is the Model T?
Model T. So this is the first time the car goes off the ground.
Model T came out in 1908.
Wow.
1908?
Yeah.
So it was an old car.
Wow. It was 53 years old.
The Model T is Ford's universal car that put the world on wheels. I think it was Ford's first car.
Wow. We learn a lot on this program.
We do.
Not just about Disney. We also learn about Model Ts.
It was also in production until 1927.
So he puts the flubber in the front of the car, and then he can sort of he moves this little thing, and he flies up into the air somehow. And, so what do you guys think of this? All these special effects that they did of it going up into the air and all that, Rob?
For its time, it was good. For 1961, it was pretty good. It was pretty good.
Thanks, Larry David.
Yeah. Closest we'll ever get to him.
Yeah, Damien?
Yeah, I got ET vibes from it. The bicycle scene. And considering that ET came out how many years after that, like, I feel like for the time, yeah, like groundbreaking effects that were like new to Disney and probably to a lot of movies as well. I'm curious to what it does look like colored, to see if it does look worse than it did in black and white. But like just the whole movie, like the effects look good. Like, I don't know if we're just giving him an extra like pass because of how old it is. It's like the expected kind of thing. But like with the dog and the flubber, like you were saying, that shouldn't have been as flawless as it was. There should have been moments where the dog wasn't looking the right way. Did every time.
That dog was the best actor in the movie.
Yeah. So, like, yeah, for its era, the effects do hold up.
Yeah, I was impressed with the effects. I thought they looked cool.
Yeah.
I was like, that looks pretty neat how they're doing this. You kind of, I mean, because we sort of know how movies work, we kind of know what they were doing. But they look good. You obviously got the green screen stuff going on at times.
It adds to the humor.
But what I like about these old movies is you sort of have to use your own imagination a little bit as well. So you just kind of got to go with it. And I mean, because we're enjoying the movie, you just go with it.
You really respect your expectations because you're enjoying it.
Yeah. Once that happens, the professor goes to the Betsy's house, and he wants to take her to. He wants to tell her about the car, but she's going to the basketball game with Sheldon. And so so they've gone off, and he's like, all right, I guess I'm going to have to go to this basketball game. And now we enter the greatest scene in movie history.
Better than Teen Wolf.
The basketball scene. We're in the school, and it's the Metfield team versus I don't know what the other team is called, but I guess they're called the Giants because they were double the size of
and the age, double the size and the age.
No, the Metfield team have old men on their team as well. They have 18-year-old boys who look like they're 40-year-old men. But this Metfield team, they weren't very good, were they?
Not at all.
Oh God.
And the other team are like towering over them. They can't even reach the ball. So they're pretty much they're losing big time. And then the professor gets an idea. Brilliant idea. So his idea is to grab all of their second half game shoes, drive all the way home, iron on flubber onto the bottom of the shoes, get back to the game before halftime. Then he has to replace all of their shoes while they're in the locker rooms with their second half shoes without them even noticing him there. He does it though.
No idea how.
I don't know, but he gets the shoes into the locker rooms, and they put the shoes on with the flubber. And now what happens? What can we say? How does the team?
I mean, they go from zero to hero effectively.
I was too busy laughing.
They take off, both literally and figuratively.
This is the funniest scene I've seen in a long time. We were in
The effects don't hold up to a degree.
No, they're great. I love the effects.
The effects are great, but you can tell it's a zany effect. Like, it's not meant to be legitimately serious.
I think it's meant to be serious. Look, Rob's already laughing thinking about it.
There's no way they thought that came across as like legit.
So what they technically did, they've obviously got ropes on them, and they're pulling them up, and the effect is so funny. And they're sort of doing these weird things with their legs as they're jumping up and down, and
There's also weird
faces are so goofy.
Control. Like, it's like they record the video at like a slower rate or something, then spin it up after the fact.
Yeah,
They move faster than they should. And then they reused like scenes as well.
Oh yeah, they show some of the shots up to 3 times. Like, but every time it is funnier and funnier. It just gets funnier the more they show the same scenes.
Like, I've not laughed that hard at a movie made pre-90s in a long time. It wasn't intentionally meant to, they were meant to be a comedy. I've laughed at stuff that was meant to be serious, but
And so everyone knows this is the first movie that we all watched together. The other ones we watched separately, but this one we watched together, and we were cracking up.
we lost it.
And then the part where one of the players goes so high he hits his head on the beam, and it's just this weird reaction. And then he jumps over the beam.
Like they fucking the beam.
This
It's so absurd.
I mean, I urge anyone to go and just if you don't watch this movie, watch this scene because it's
Just that one scene is all you need. If that scene doesn't sell you on the movie alone,
I know.
you must be working for the feds or something. You ain't got no.
And in the last shot, the ball goes in, and the guy like follows him into
the hoop.
into the hoop as well. And then you got the coach is like not the coach, the referee like just looking as
Doesn't
confused.
know what to do.
Yeah.
The coach, the coach of the guys that were originally winning, is like, they're cheating or something. Yeah. And it's like, there's nothing I can do.
It's like, I can't stop them from jumping high. It's like, well, what can I do? They just.
It's completely legit as far as I'm aware.
Anyway, so this movie peaked at this point, but we'll continue. So they win the game. Everyone's happy. Then we go back to Shelby and Betsy. And Betsy, Shelby tries to kiss Betsy. And what happens?
What happens when he tries to kiss her?
Shut down.
Yeah, she kind of turns her face, so gets a cheek.
That's it.
And he's denied. That's it. But you know what? He kind of got rejected there, but he didn't take it that way. He was still he was super confident still. And then this is when this movie turns into a horror movie. Because Shelby gets in his car, and then the absent-minded professor is in his Model T, with the headlights off, and he's watching him. And then he follows Shelby in his car and drives above his car and starts smashing into his roof.
While laughing
like a crazy man.
He's laughing the whole time he does it too.
He is.
He's enjoying this.
Like he's given this Shelby guy nightmares for the rest of his life.
Poor Shelby.
I mean, poor Shelby. And then Shelby turns a corner, and then there's just two cops just minding their own business. One of them has a big flask of coffee, and then they smash each other, and the cars literally go boink. Like it's just like off the air. It's the craziest way of this. I would love to see a smash like that. Actually, I don't want to see a smash like that. And this guy, the cop gets coffee all over him, and then they make Shelby blow into a balloon that's attached to a bomb or something, which is like a breathalyzer, I guess.
Yeah.
But it looked like something. What did it look like?
It's just a balloon attached to some water.
Yeah.
It looked like something a kid might have made to play with or something.
If that's what breathalyzers looked like back in the day, I'm shocked. I did not know that's what breathalyzers look like. But a balloon attached to, it looks like one of those machines that you put a balloon on it so you can blow it up easily.
Wondering if there's a chemical in there or something that reacts to alcohol in your breath or something, and they use that similar drug testing methods where there's a chemical reaction. Maybe that's how they measured alcohol back then.
Well, after all this, the professor is driving his car back home in the sky, obviously, and Mr. Hawk he sees the car in the sky, so he goes to the professor the next day and wants to make a deal with him about the flubber, and he doesn't want to make a deal with Mr. Hawk, but he wants to sell the flubber to the government. And then that's where you've got the Navy, the Army, and the Air Force all wanting this flubber.
But like, this happens just after like they congratulate each other on like finally being able to like work together as a group as like a united unit of 3 different areas.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, flubber, flying car. Oh, I wanted this for myself.
Yeah, and then they all individually go off, and then they end up.
All like book at this different, like each book one, and then all up in the same taxi.
Yeah, and the guy's like, "There's only one taxi. You all got to get in." They're like, "All right." So then there's a school dance. So this is so Shelby and Betsy have gone to the school dance together, and the professor he rocks up at the dance, and he gets the genius idea of putting the flubber onto his shoes because he can't dance, but this flubber's gonna help him dance, I guess.
Yeah, somehow.
How's it go, Rob? What do you reckon? Did it help him or?
It made him interesting to all the kids and all the adults at the school dance, but it doesn't mean that it made him a good dancer. Everyone was just watching him.
He was doing some crazy flips and stuff. Like
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely interesting dancing.
It's interesting. It's not bad.
Interesting
But it's
that
not
no
great.
one connected the professor's dancing with the basketball game either.
Yeah, I know, right? How could no one put 2 and 2 together?
Well, he dances so high he ends up he's like grabbing onto balloons up on the ceiling. This is when the Army and the Navy and the Air Force all turn up at the dance, and then he shows them his car, Model T, but what he doesn't know is Mr. Hawk and his son had switched cars, and he had taken his Model T and left him with a dodgy Model T that doesn't fly in the air. And when he opens up the front, there's like a squirrel running on a hamster wheel, and so some birds fly out of us as well. So they made him look pretty crazy. So they worked out that Mr. Hawk had obviously switched their cars at some point. So they go, him and Betty go to Mr. Hawk's house, and then he puts flubber on his shoes, on Mr. Hawk's shoes, and the
horror movie starts again.
Yeah, I know. This is a lot of horror movie stuff going on in this movie. And then he tricks him to bounce outside. And so Mr. Hawk bounces outside, and then he doesn't know how to stop bouncing. So he bounces up and down continuously. And he can't stop. And then they get the information out of him that his Model T is back in the warehouse. So they take off to the warehouse, and Mr. Hawk is just jumping up and down, and he can't stop. What do you think about this effect?
This one definitely looks not the best. It looked more like someone was like on something high with the camera going, "Whoa, whoa."
Yeah. That was one of the effects, yeah. So he calls out to his son, who's in his room, I guess, and his son's like, "What are you doing, Dad?" He's like, "What do you think I'm doing? I've got flubber on my feet. I can't stop jumping." And so he calls reinforcements to help him. And while that's happening, Betsy and Professor go to the warehouse to get their car back, and that's where the two goons are. And how do they try to stop the Professor? Multiple times.
They use their heads this time, but quite literally.
Yes. Against the door.
They literally go vertical, like full body vertical.
Yeah. So the Professor like jumps up in the air, and they go vertical straight into the door, and it looks insane. It looks so hilarious.
So cheesy, but it was so good.
It's almost like these effects that they're doing don't look quite right, but that's why it's so good.
Why they work?
Yeah, it's why it works is because it doesn't look right.
It adds to that humor. It's like when you watch like a Looney Tunes or something.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said earlier, this is like a cartoon at times, and that's what's so great about it.
It reminded me of Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yeah.
It's like having the two crazy sidekicks who just continuously get hit by each other by accident. Or
So basically, they smash their head into the door and smash it open, and then they just drive the car out.
I love though the last one, like they kind of realize after like multiple attempts that what they're doing wasn't working. So they decide to like go high.
Yeah.
So the Professor went low instead, anticipating that.
Yeah. And before this actually happened, they jumped into each other where they slammed each other's heads into each other's heads.
Yeah.
And knocked themselves out. And then the Professor is trying to wake him up.
Like, why would you do that?
Because he needs them to put their heads through the door one more time. So while that's happening,
one more headbutt left.
Yeah. So while that's all happening, all these people are coming to see Mr. Hawk jump up and down, and they got the fire brigade there, and all this funny stuff's going on. And I don't know if you guys probably didn't realize, but the fire chief.
Mm-hmm.
You know how he's like, you don't tell me to put what did he say? Don't put what the guy told him something, and he's like, you don't tell me how to do that. I tell you, I'm the chief.
He was complaining about them needing a new net thing because the dude she went straight through the net because like a hole or something, and he was like complaining about how it was saying we need new equipment.
Yeah, and I was like, I bet that guy is somebody, that chief, and that's Ed Wynn.
I didn't know that.
Ed Wynn is, you look it up, Damien, but he's the voice of the Mad Hatter in Alice in Wonderland.
Did not know that.
And he's in Mary Poppins. Ed Wynn. So he's a Disney classic actor who was obviously Walt Disney was a fan of him to put him in so many of these things, and just his little cameo in this is pretty funny. Mm-hmm. And so how do they end up getting Mr. Hawk down?
His son caused the entire football team to keep him down.
Yeah. So they do a stacks on when he bounces the ground. They just all jump on him. Oh. And he was murdered in that process. He was all right.
He was just a little bit sore by having about 15 boys jumping on top of him.
So he gets out of that, and then they drive to the warehouse, but it's too late because he already has the Model T, and then the Professor sees that those two cops are driving around again, so he makes it out. So the cops run into Mr. Hawk's car this time, And you know what happens to the cars? They do the same thing again. They just go.
The same thing happens to the again with the coffee.
Yeah, he's drinking his coffee again. You think this cop will learn his lesson? Don't drive
don't
around
think
with
he
an open flask of coffee. So then they get arrested because Mr. Hawk has a gun because he's shooting at. This is where things get weird. He's actually like, I'm going to start shooting at the professor now. And
Because he stole the car that I stole from him.
Mm.
He stole his rightful car back from
He
me.
even said that to the cops. Like he's like to the cops, he stole my invention. It's like,
yeah.
it's not even his invention. You stole it first.
So he gets arrested, and then the professor and Betsy fly off to Washington DC. And well, explain all this stuff that's going on. They're about to get murdered in the sky, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently they enter like a no-fly area, and the government's like, we have a UFO. It looks like a Model T.
And
It has to be aliens. It has to be. So they're not sending out two jets to like intercept. And there's a little bit of a flying thing that happens. So eventually they're like, you know what? Maybe we should just land the car and explain what's going on.
Yeah, they land in the Washington, the White House, and they get rushed, which I think is probably the best scenario when you land in the White House. Because if you land in the White House these days,
you don't land in the White House. That's the thing. You're ashed by that point. You don't exist anymore at that point.
Yeah.
Even if something did survive, no one's ever going to hear from you again.
Exactly. So he basically decides to give everyone the flubber. So the Army and the Navy and the Air Force, so they all can share it. They all can share their flubber together.
You get flubber. You get flubber. Everybody gets flubber.
and then happy ending. The professor gets married at the end.
No.
And they all lived happily ever after.
Yes, they did.
And now it's time to rate this movie. How many dwarfs do you give this movie out of 7? Damien?
I have to give it 7.
Oh my god, he's done it!
But I have to. I honestly, I 100% enjoyed this movie.
Yeah.
I loved it. There was no way I could give it anything less than a 7. Like there wasn't a moment where I was like, this is kind of turning me off the movie, or like, this isn't right. I enjoyed the movie. The humor was good, and maybe like any errors or issues there might have been didn't matter. So for pure enjoyment, it deserves a 7.
7. Hey, Rob, what do you give it?
Out of 7 dwarfs?
Yeah.
I give it a 6.
Oh.
I give it a 6. Because there are some few questionable things, like when you can clearly see that it isn't the actor and that it's the stunt double doing that scene.
Yeah, it's
you
great.
can clearly tell. And what do you rate it, Michael?
Oh, once again, I'm gonna just follow what you do. And I'm gonna give it a 6.
Don't want to look crazy like me?
Well, I'm 7. I'm just saving for like the best of the best, and I mean,
So Aladdin.
yeah, pretty much. And yeah, I mean, this was a hidden gem, and I don't know why more people don't talk about this movie. Why it sort of it's not one of the classics.
Even when people talk about Flubber, this movie's never mentioned.
Yeah, and
the thing is too is like Flubber was Robin Williams, and while there's a lot of stuff in the remake that people didn't like, Robin Williams was his good comic self in that movie. So that this movie stands up to that alone is amazing.
Yeah. Well, after I watched this movie, I rewatched Flubber with Robin Williams, and I don't really like that movie, and I can't really put my finger on why, but I don't know, there's something about it. But
It feels like it's too much for children, I think, is...
Yeah. But this...
Flubber's audience, like, under 12s.
Yeah. But this one I think is so much better. That Absentminded Professor, I think it's just done better. Like it doesn't have the special effects that the new one has, but the effects that they had at the time, I think they did really well. And it looks, I like it because it looks a bit sillier. And that's why it's funnier.
Feels like you can tell Disney had fun with this movie in making and like how they wrote it. And you can feel that energy and the enjoyment that comes from it. It wasn't trying too hard to be funny at the same time. Which I think a lot of comedies nowadays fail. They try way too hard to appeal to too many people at once.
Yeah. And I mean, just that basketball scene alone, as we've already talked about, I mean,
Great scene.
That is such a good scene. And anyway, that is The Absent-Minded Professor. Check it out. It is on Disney+. You can see it there. But now it's time to find out what movie we'll be watching for next week's show. And I believe Rob has the
holy grail of all of our 1970 movies.
So we're in the 70s now.
We're in the 70s now. Okay, so the first movie, the release date was December 14, 1973.
73? Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, Robin Hood?
No.
Oh. One Little Indian?
Super Dad.
Oh, dear. That was right after, that was right after Robin Hood.
Yep, so Super Dad is one of our choices.
Oh, dear.
And now, time for our second choice. Okay, now, this one came out February 1st, 1973.
Oh.
Yeah, so another 1973 film. This movie is called The World's Greatest Athlete.
Oh, dear.
And now, time for number 3. Come on, can we get one good? Come on, Herbie. Herbie or Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. And number 3.
Yes.
This movie was released December 15, 1970. This movie is called The Wild Country.
The Wild Country, you say?
Yeah, The Wild Country. Oh. So it might be a movie about Australia because we are a wild country. Am I going first?
Yeah, go on.
I pick just because the name of the movie reminds me of one of my favorite movies. I'm going with Super Dad.
Damien?
See, I think my vote's Super Dad. I think it's the one that sounds like it might be somewhat enjoyable somehow, some way.
So even though your vote doesn't matter, Michael, what is your vote for a movie?
Shocker, my vote was going to be Super Dad as well. So
3 from 3.
So, but my reason is because the star of the movie is Bob Crane, who was in Hogan's Heroes, and also Kurt Russell's in it.
Kurt Russell, young Kurt Russell.
Young Kurt Russell. So
I've never seen a young Kurt Russell.
Well, this should be fun.
Oh my god, this is going to be great.
So this movie actually looks like it could be good, could be enjoyable. Maybe it's another hidden gem like The Absent-Minded Professor.
Let's hope it is.
Fingers crossed. All right, and now it's time to find out how Disney are you?
Yes, it is. So Michael and Damien, currently our scores are me on 4, Michael on 2, and Damien on 2 as well. Can one of them tie with me or even take over me and get all 3 of these questions right?
I don't know. I just keep making mistakes.
I don't do well under pressure.
I just keep giving the wrong answer. And then I know the right answer.
Seeing as how this was about the original of a remake. So these questions are going to be based on the originals that have either had a remake made or have a remake in the making.
Hint, hint, nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
So, question 1 for How Disney Are You this week is Aladdin and Abu were told not to touch anything in the Cave of Wonders. However, Abu breaks that rule. What is the object that Abu touches? Is it A?
Oh, sorry.
Is it A, the magic carpet? B, a diamond? C, a lamp? Or D, a ruby? Michael got in first. What is the object that Abu touches?
Well, I mean, technically, it's the magic carpet, but it doesn't close up. But you go in. Is it the technical? They technically touch? It's the magic carpet.
Sorry.
If you're saying what physical thing they touch first?
No.
It's
what thing that they touch that makes the Cave of Wonders basically turn it into a pool of lava.
Oh, the ruby.
You are correct. So that puts Michael on 3. Okay, now question 2. How many sisters does Ariel have? Is it A, 5, B, 4, C, 6, or D, 3? Damien, you go.
I'm going to preface this by saying that I didn't even know she had sisters.
Okay.
So I'm just taking a wild guess. 3?
That is incorrect. Michael, do you have the correct answer?
Can you give me the options again, please?
It is A, 5, B, 4, C, 6, or D, 3. And we know that D is the incorrect answer, so it's out of A, B, or C.
I think it's 6. I remember she has a lot of sisters. I'm just gonna go 6.
That question is correct.
Yeah.
That puts you equal 4 points with me. And now it is time for Describe a Disney Film Badly. Now, this movie... Okay, so a girl develops Stockholm Syndrome while being locked in a castle.
Michael,
what is the answer?
Beauty and the Beast.
That is correct. So now that puts Michael in the lead. So now Michael's on 5.
The original, I think it's also a repeating theme in Disney. Is getting kidnapped or locked up or hidden away.
Now it's Michael on 5, me on 4, and Damo on 2.
Anyway, all right. Well, I do need another Funko Pop, so thank you. Keep them coming.
Hey, you're only halfway there. You still need 5 more points.
Yeah. And next week, I'm asking the questions.
Yeah.
So
if you want to win that pop, Michael, you kind of have to make sure Rob doesn't, right? Nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Get to make the card, the questions extra hard.
For Rob.
All right, well, you can find us on Facebook at Beneath the Castle. please go to soundcloud.com/beneath the castle, or you can find us on Spotify and listen to the show. Or if you not only want to hear us, you want to see us as well, you can go to YouTube page Beneath the Castle. That's the end of the show. Thanks for listening or watching. Make sure you go out and watch the Absentminded Professor, because it's awesome. And remember, growing old is mandatory, but growing up is optional. Good night.
Good night.